Hi, Peter Charles here of Hooked for Life Fly Fishing. And here's another video on streamer tactics answering the question, does size matter? No, we're not going to go in that direction, okay? We're staying with fishing. I've got a video up already on called Match the Hatch. It's talking about matching the size of the fly to the predominant bait fish in the water and how it made a difference. And I want to elaborate on that a little bit more because I think it's an underappreciated aspect to streamer fishing. The tendency is to slap on something and swing it out there and hope for the best. And really we should be paying attention to the bait fish populations as much as we are to the insects, the mayflies and the caddisflies when we're trout fishing. You know, we'll go off and we'll look at the hatch and we shake the bushes and look at the caddis and, look in the air and see if we can see what's on the surface of the water, that kind of stuff. We'll seine the water to see what bugs are in it. But how much attention do we pay to the bait fish, specifically size and color? So I've got some here, and these have all, not necessarily these specific flies, but flies like this have all taken bass for me. Even this big pike fly, this is my Yak 9 pike fly, has taken the odd bass when I've been out fishing for pike, and there's also bass in the area. I've had a few bass take that fly. So a decent sized bass will have no trouble taking that on. So, but all of these different flies are capable of taking bass, but some will work better than others at different times. And really it's all about the size of the bait fish that's in the water. And what I would suggest, when you first move into the water, when you're out there and you've got your waders on, you've got your rod, we normally rush in. We tell people, trout guys, to look around before you go rushing in. Well, do the same thing for the bait fish. Look what's in the shallows. What's the size? What's the color? Look at the way they move. Do they dart? Do they tend to swim in straight lines? Do they sort of, very hesitant type actions? How do they move? What size they are? Predominant color. That's the same type of mentality that we bring to dry fly fishing. And you can also, something you can do too, and I've done this as well, is if you've got a waterproof camera, stick it underwater and take a few videos of fish activity, especially if you're standing in one spot for any length of time. The little fish will start to ignore you, and you can put a camera under and get good video of them. And it's a great way to get an idea of what's really down there, even if you can't really see them that well. You put a camera underneath the water, and now you can get a good look at them. So I've done that as well. It's just to give you an idea what's there. Because if you're not getting anything on the patterns you're tossing, we talked in a previous video about imitator versus attractor, and you've tried both an imitative pattern and an attractor pattern, and you're not getting anything, it may be a size problem. You may be usually too big, in my experience, is we're tossing something that's large, and we should be downsizing, because the predominant bait fish in that water is small. And I find even if you don't have the right appearance, if you've got the right size, it helps. So, I don't carry that for bass. Those are accidental catches when I get bass on that thing. But I will carry flies in this size when I'm out fishing for bass, and the same thing for trout too. I'm talking bass, but everything I've said applies to trout as well. They feed on what's available. And so if you're throwing the right size, even though it's not necessarily the right color, that's usually enough, and they'll come after it. So if you were to ask me what's the most important thing after the imitator and attractor business, I would say it's size. And then beyond that, it gets into color. And lastly, action. How we make the fly perform. I went and had potato chips before I sat down here, and now I've got potato chips in the throat, and I should have had some water before I got on the video. Oh well. There's one little story I'll talk about. I was out with a fellow who's very experienced, has done a ton of fishing and casting instructor, you name it, and we were fishing for smallmouth, and we were using very similar flies. He wasn't getting hardly anything, and I got like 2 dozen. And the difference was, the action I gave it. I was giving it a very small strip. He was giving a long, slow strips. Mine were little short darts. So sometimes it just comes down to that. But I would say my first video was attractor imitator. Now I'm talking about size. Later on, we'll get into color and action. But that's my list, if you want to say, attractor or imitator, size, color, action. And if you get those 4 things right, you'll have a fish fest. Anyway, size does matter. Cheers.